Everyone remembers the stepsisters from Cinderella. The shrill voices, the jealousy, the endless cruelty that they showed towards the girl forced to scrub their floors. But what if I told you that behind all the wicked laughter and shattered glass slippers, there's a deeper psychological divide between Anastasia and Drizella, one that reveals why only one of them was ever able to change. Because while both sisters were shaped by the same house, the same mother, and the same toxic worldview, only Anastasia managed to hold onto this crucial characteristic, which in turn let her escape the influence of Lady Tremaine, while Drizella stayed trapped in the clutches of Lady Tremaine's control. And the first thing that we have to recognize is that on paper, they should have turned out exactly the same. Both daughters were raised under the rigid control of Lady Tremaine, a woman who valued status, power, and appearance above all else. In that household, love was conditional, kindness was weakness, and empathy was almost forbidden. In other words, Lady Tremaine's home was a place of emotional manipulation and control. Her cruelty towards Cinderella was matched by her psychological grip on her own daughters. She twisted everyday moments, like Cinderella wearing discarded accessories, into lessons of cruelty, pitting her daughters against kindness itself. Through the years of this conditioning, Anastasia and Drizella learned that marriage was about status and wealth, not love, that affection was weakness, and that approval came only through obedience. Anastasia did internalize these values, but it shows in the movie that she also internalized these feelings into unworthiness. She wanted love, even as she believed she didn't deserve it. Drizella, meanwhile, absorbed her mother's beliefs completely, learning to see love as meaningless and vulnerability as dangerous. Yet, even in this environment, Anastasia's story breaks the mold. Over the course of Cinderella 2 and Cinderella 3, we watch her undergo a transformation. She learns to recognize kindness, to feel guilt, and ultimately to make choices that go against everything her mother taught her. Meanwhile, Drizella, she stays trapped, petty, bitter, and cruel to the very end. So, what happened? What made Anastasia's redemption possible and Drizella impossible? The first major difference between the sisters lies in what they wanted most. Anastasia, even at her worst, longed for something real: love, connection, belonging. We see this explicitly in Cinderella 2, Dreams Come True, where she secretly wishes for romance. She's awkward, insecure, and painfully aware of how unlovable she's been made to feel. But deep down, she wants to be seen for who she is. That desire for genuine love, not approval, not wealth, sets her apart from Drizella immediately. Drizella, by contrast, never craved love, or at least she wasn't able to desire love because she was conditioned to desire something else entirely. Her goals were external: wealth, admiration, and power. In a way, she wanted to be envied, not loved. Everything she did was about gaining status or pleasing her mother. Her inner world revolved around fear of disapproval and hunger for validation. That distinction is critical, because while Drizella's desires kept her chained to Lady Tremaine's value system, Anastasia's longing, even though it was fragile, was her first act of quiet rebellion. She wanted something her mother didn't teach her to want. And that right there was the first critical difference between the two sisters. But what happened next would test that difference in a surprising way, because the moment kindness entered their world, it didn't affect them equally. When kindness enters Anastasia's life, it didn't bounce off her, it took root. In Cinderella 2, we see a beautiful example of this when Cinderella treats Anastasia with patience and understanding, even after everything Anastasia has done. Instead of mocking her, Cinderella encourages her, and for the first time, Anastasia begins to soften. This is a moment where her redemption begins, not through punishment or fear, but through exposure to compassion she's never known. Drizella, on the other hand, responds to kindness with ridicule. She mocks the very idea of mercy or forgiveness, and when her mother schemes to undo the happy ending and steal the royal title in Cinderella 3, Drizella follows blindly. Even when faced with opportunities to reflect or to question her mother's cruelty, she never does. Kindness is something that she sees as weakness, not strength. Anastasia's ability to receive kindness, even awkwardly, is the first proof of her openness of heart. Drizella's inability to even recognize it tragically illustrates a bulletproof level of emotional armor. And not only was openness to kindness a key factor, but so was something deeper: empathy and guilt. These are often painful emotions, yet in Disney storytelling, there are also signs of life within the soul, especially for Anastasia. In her, these emotions show the faint light of conscience, the tiny flicker of empathy that refuses to die even after years of cruelty and manipulation. Anastasia's flashes of guilt are subtle but unmistakable. In Cinderella 3, when she realizes the pain her mother's magic has caused, when she sees Cinderella's heartbreak, she hesitates. That hesitation is monumental. It means she can still feel something beyond herself. She's aware of the consequence of her choices. That guilt, far from being a weakness, becomes her compass towards redemption. Drizella, on the other hand, shows no such reflection. She mocks, she follows orders, and she reinforces cruelty without pause. There's no spark of guilt, no awareness that others might feel pain. Anastasia's guilt hurts her, but it also heals her. Drizella's lack of guilt keeps her comfortably cruel. And by the time Cinderella 3 rolls around, Anastasia is no longer just passively kind, she's actively defiant. When Lady Tremaine uses the fairy godmother's wand to rewrite history, Anastasia is given the opportunity to marry Prince Charming under false pretenses. For a while, she goes along with it, but ultimately, she can't do it. That moment is her act of independence. For the first time, she chooses right over comfort, honesty over power. It's the moment she stops being her mother's daughter and starts being her own person. Drizella, in contrast, never questions Lady Tremaine's control. She clings to it. Her identity depends entirely on her mother's approval. When Lady Tremaine commands, Drizella obeys. In many ways, Drizella is the purest extension of Tremaine's worldview. Cynical, status-driven, and fearful. Anastasia, though she was born into the same system, eventually realizes she can leave it. And if redemption is ever going to happen, a person needs to be able to at least imagine that life could be different, and then have the courage to live it. When I think about Anastasia falling for the humble baker in Cinderella 2, I see her not just falling in love, but reimagining what happiness looks like for herself. No castles, no crowns, just kindness, warmth, and mutual respect. That relationship represents the first time she envisions a world outside her mother's narrow view of success, a world where she's free to define her own worth. But imagining that world wasn't enough. She also had to step into it. That's where courage comes in. Choosing the baker meant giving up luxury, comfort, and her mother's approval. It likely wasn't an easy choice, but she did it anyway. For Anastasia, this was liberation through imagination and courage combined. The bravery to live the life she had once only dared to picture. Her redemption was sealed not just in her dreams, but in the actions she took to make them real. When we put all these elements together, they all circle back to one thing: openness of heart. Anastasia still had one. Drizella didn't. That openness allowed Anastasia to long for genuine love instead of just status. It allowed her to respond to Cinderella's compassion. It made her feel guilt when she saw others hurting. It gave her the courage to question her mother's authority. It let her dream of a life where she could be loved for who she was, and ultimately, it gave her the strength to live with integrity instead of fear. In that sense, Anastasia didn't just become good. She allowed herself to be truly seen and transform into the person she wanted to be. Now, with all this being said, it is easy to dismiss Drizella as the quote-unquote evil one, but if we look deeper, her behavior makes a sort of tragic sense. Her cruelty was a defense mechanism, not a sign of evilness per se, at least not initially. Drizella lived in constant fear of Lady Termaine's disapproval, fear that she'd never be enough, fear that if she wasn't cruel first, then she'd be the one humiliated. Instead of resisting her mother's control, she internalized it, mistaking obedience for safety. In that world, cruelty becomes armor. Better to mock Cinderella than to admit that you envy her. Better to be feared than to risk being unloved. Judgment is the second layer of Drizella's armor. Every time she mocked Cinderella's gentleness, she was really protecting herself from envy and pain. By laughing at kindness, she could pretend it didn't matter. Drizella's cruelty wasn't inherent, it was self-preservation through years and years of conditioning. But the cost of that conditioning was emptiness. While Anastasia allowed herself to feel unworthy and still hope for love, Drizella refused to feel it at all. So, is Drizella truly bad? I personally don't think so, at least not inherently. She's a product of conditioning, just like Anastasia. The tragedy is that she let fear control her life so completely that she lost her capacity for empathy. Kindness made her uncomfortable because kindness demands vulnerability, and vulnerability was dangerous in Lady Tremaine's house. Anastasia risked that vulnerability, and that's why she changed. Drizella avoided it, and that's why she couldn't. In the end, the difference between them isn't goodness or wickedness, it's openness. One sister left a window in her heart cracked open just enough for love to find its way in. The other sealed hers shut, convinced that safety was worth the cost of joy. So while Cinderella's story is about faith and magic, I think Anastasia's story is about something quieter but no less powerful. The courage to stay open in a world that teaches you to close. But I actually want to know what you think. Do you believe that Drizella can still change, or do you think that there's no hope left for her? Be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments below.